Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Head 2. Hope you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame, especially the old players that are on the era committee, and they're going to be voted in. And we've got about 8 players here. Some of the players I've seen, but some of these players I've not seen. Some of these players were Negro League players. So I can't tell you anything about them. But one of the names that's not on this list is Keith Hernandez. So, and some of the names on this list are players that passed away, and recently too. This is from MLB.com. 8 players up for the Hall of Fame on Classic Era ballot. National Baseball Hall of Fame announced on Monday this year's ballot for the Era Committee, which will focus on the Classic Baseball era, the period prior to 1980. Including Negro Leagues and pre-Negro Leagues stars. Dick Allen, Ken Boyer, John Donaldson. People were writing on Twitter, John Donaldson, who was a Negro League player. Steve Garvey, Dave Parker, Vic Harris, another player from the Negro Leagues. Tommy John, and the late, recently passed away, Luis Tiant, are all up for consideration as part of the Classic Baseball Era ballot. Candidates need to receive votes of 75% of the ballots cast by a committee to earn an election. Now, the issue I have with this committee, before we get to that, the results of the vote will be announced live on MLB Network at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday, December 8th. The biggest issue I have is that the people casting votes for this do not explain why they didn't vote for certain players. Curt Schilling did not get into the Eras Committee, and they never explained why. I believe that was because of politics, less to do with him as a player. And there were people on that committee in the past that should not have been on that committee, in my view. First up, Dick Allen, first baseman, third baseman. Allen's been considered for Cooperstown multiple times by these committees, most recently in 2021 when he fell one vote shy, finally being inducted to the Hall of Fame. The numbers largely speak for themselves, but Allen doesn't have a plaque just yet. Fortunately, Allen passed away in December 2020, just a few months after the Phillies retired his number, an honor the club had previously reserved for players already in the Hall of Fame. Now, here's the thing about Allen. He won the Rookie of the Year. He won MVP. The numbers he put up in the 70s, during the 60s and 70s were numbers that very few players put up for that era. It was not kind of like a dead ball era in baseball, and the numbers he put up those years were very strong. And he should be in the Hall of Fame. And he's very much sort of been forgotten. Next up, Ken Boyer, third base, an incredible all-around third baseman. Boyer earned 5 Gold Gloves, 11 All-Star nods, and the 1964 National League MVP award. He also played a pivotal role in helping the Cardinals win the '64 World Series, leading the majors with 119 RBIs during the regular season before hitting a pair of clutch homers in the World Series. Boyer hit a series-shifting grand slam in Game 4 and added an insurance homer in a decisive Game 7. I never saw him. And see Dick Allen either. John Donaldson. Donaldson was such a draw during his barnstorming days that he earned the nickname Famous, and was called it so frequently that some thought it was his actual first name. Research indicates Donaldson may have played some form of professional baseball or semi-pro ball for 42 seasons, from 1908 to 1949, and started his baseball career more than a decade before the Negro National League was created in 1920. Donaldson played for at least 25 clubs. And while it's hard to know his exact stats, Negro League's historian Pete Gorton verified the following numbers for Donaldson. Get this, because he's a pitcher, left-handed pitcher. 413 wins, 5,091 strikeouts, 14 no-hitters, and 2 perfect games. Wow. Whereas he hasn't gotten in before this. Next up, Steve Garvey, which I saw at the end of his career. A 10-time All-Star, Garvey was the biggest name within the Dodgers' record-setting infield of 8.5 seasons that included second baseman Davey Lopes, shortstop Bill Russell, and third baseman Ron Cey. Garvey was the model consistency from 74 to 80, hitting between 297 and 319, while posting OPS between 808 and 852 each season, all while never finishing lower than 14th in NL MVP voting. He also raised his game in the 11th postseason, putting up a 910 OPS on the game's biggest stage. Garvey's National League record of 1,207 consecutive games played will likely never be broken. So he's an Iron Man. But he was a guy that he was really the Gold Glove stand until Keith Hernandez came along. And he's a right-handed first baseman. Big clutch hitter. He had a big clutch home run against the Chicago Cubs in the 1984 NLCS. So this is a guy, he's been a big postseason player. He was one of the best players in the National League for a long time. I looked at his wins above replacement. I thought they're low. They would be the lowest of any first baseman that's currently in the Hall of Fame. Now, I would mention, if he gets in the Hall of Fame, I would say that this kind of opens the door for two particular first basemen. Keith Hernandez, like I said earlier, and Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly and Keith were better players, particularly Mattingly, than Garvey was. Mattingly for about 3 or 4 years was considered the best player in the game. And the fact that Garvey gets in and Keith doesn't. I mean, Keith and Mattingly get in says a lot. The last player on this list, I think. Or one of the, I'll get to the next guy. Vic Harris, outfielder manager. Even with it possibly being incomplete, Harris' baseball resume is remarkable. He was a fixture in the Negro Leagues, appearing as a player from 1922 to 1947, also managing from 36 to 42 and again from 45 to 48. While his exact numbers are hard to pin down, he's listed as a career 303 hitter with a 112 OPS plus. As for his managerial success, Harris guided the Homestead Grays to 7 pennants and a World Series title in the Negro Leagues. That's the difficult part about the Negro Leagues. It's very difficult to pin down the statistics. That's the one issue that really hampers the judging, in my view, of the Negro League players, because they keep stats like they did in the majors. So, and a lot of times they go play here and they go play there and they be in the league and not in the league. So it's very kind of hard to pin down the numbers. But people that see the players, historians will tell you who were great and who weren't. Next up, Tommy John. Not the surgery, there was an actual player named Tommy John. John's name is as recognizable as perhaps any player in Major League history, though of course much of that has to do with the groundbreaking surgery that bears his name. But John also had the numbers to earn serious Hall of Fame consideration. He finished his 26-year career, one extended by the aforementioned surgical procedure, with 288 career victories. That ranks 26th all-time, and 23 of the 25 players ahead of him are in the Hall of Fame. John's longevity also helped him rack up 79.6 career fan WAR number, the 20th highest total for any pitcher in the modern era. The only two pitchers with more F WAR than John, who are not in the Hall of Fame, are Roger Clemens and Curt Schilling, each of whom are on the outside for off-the-field reasons. Now, here's the thing about Tommy John. He won 20 games 3 times. Once before the Tommy John before the surgery, and twice after surgery. And he has actually more wins. He actually has more wins than Jim Cott, who just recently got in. So he is a guy that is sort of sitting there. We will see if he gets in. Because I think just due to the fact he's right there as a player. And I think also the surgery should, just because of the surgery too, how groundbreaking it is, not just for players, but for people in general, that he should get in just for that. Next up, Louis Tiant, who just recently passed away. For wildly unique delivery and long-lasting big league success, Tiant was a must-see anytime he took the mound. El Tiante finished his 19-year Major League career of 229 wins and 3.30 ERA while pitching for the Indians, the Twins, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Pirates, and the Angels. Tiant finished 5th in the AL MVP voting in 1968. The pitcher, after putting up an all-AL best 1.60 ERA, and leading the league with an 8.5 baseball reference WAR. He also recorded at least 12 wins in 8 straight seasons from 72 through 79. The only pitchers with more wins than Tiant, 134 over that 8-season stretch, were Steve Carlton, Hall of Famer, Jim Palmer, Hall of Famer, Gaylord Perry, Hall of Famer, Tom Seaver, Hall of Famer, Nolan Ryan, and Phil Niekro, all Hall of Famers. So he's a guy that should get serious consideration. He should have gotten in there anyway. And the fact that that's the one thing that takes forever is they wait forever for these players to not be here with us, to where they can't enjoy it themselves. Next up, and this is a very tragic one, is Dave Parker. Parker has a long list of accolades that includes 7 All-Star nods, 3 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Slugger Awards, the 1978 National League MVP Award, and a pair of World Series titles. He also won back-to-back NL batting titles from 77 to 78 and won the All-Star Game MVP in 79. Overall, Parker finished his 19-year career as a .290 hitter with 2,712 hits, including 940 extra base hits, 339 home runs, 1,493 RBIs, 154 stolen bases, and 143 outfield assists. Now, he was one of the great power hitters, one of the great hitters in the National League. For 2 or 3 years, he was probably the best player in the National League. And injuries kind of held these numbers back. As great as these numbers are, the numbers are held back because 81, 82, 83, the numbers sort of took a backseat because he had injuries. But then once he was fully healthy and he left the Pirates and went to the Reds, he came back with a vengeance. He can keep the Cobra down for long, and he came back with a vengeance. Now the problem now for Parker is he has an illness. He has a disease, Parkinson's disease. And the disease has gotten so bad that I don't think he can speak anymore. So he's really struggling in life. And Parker should have gotten there a few years ago. This guy is he's sort of right there, but I think the fact is that he was the best player in the league for a few years, plus a very good winner. Guy did a lot of big things. He was a multi-talented player, big home run hitter, big batting, he's basically a 5'2" player. And he's a big guy, 6'5", big guy. Built like a linebacker. But he had injuries. The worst injury he ever had is when he had a home plate collision. I guess in 80, maybe 79, 80, I think 80, 81. And he fractured his skull and he had to wear a complete total face mask while he played. He had a terrible home plate collision with Expos catcher Gary Carter, which was quite thunderous for both players. Gary Carter walked away from it, but Parker, I think, this is kind of where the issue is, because some form of Parkinson's disease comes from a brain injury, and that might have happened with Dave Parker. I'm just speculating, not a doctor, but I know that with Muhammad Ali, that's what they always talked about with him. But Parker is one of these guys. I'll just go run through the names again. To me, guys that I think are Hall of Famers, in my view. The Negro League guys I never saw, so I'll leave it up to the experts, the real experts. Dick Allen, check, Hall of Famer. Ken Boyer, I don't know. Didn't see him. I say no check. He's gotten in 50 years. Steve Garvey, if he's a Hall of Famer, Keith Hernandez and Don Mattingly are Hall of Famers. It's like I said, Mattingly was a better player than Garvey. And they all won MVPs. They all won World Series. Mattingly didn't win World Series, excuse me. But they were all hot, and Mattingly was one of the best players in the American League for a few years. Dave Parker, check. And the fact that he won multiple batting titles and was just a 5'2" player. Louis Tiant, borderline, in my view. Tommy John, check, just due to the fact that he has more wins than Jim Cott and the Tommy John surgery. Those are the things that would get him in. Getting surgery will get him in, believe it or not. Louis Tiant is right there, still right there. If he gets in, great. Should have gotten in a few years ago. But that's, I didn't see him. So I'm going to just be honest with you. These other guys, some of these other guys I've seen. So you let me know what you think about this video. And of course, please subscribe to Baseball Head 2. and I'll see you later.